Hola, soy Teacher Oscar de Handy Learning y el día de hoy te voy a dar un tip de estudio para que te prepares para el examen teórico de CENEVAL y que obtengas tu licenciatura en enseñanza del inglés a través del Acuerdo 286. Específicamente te voy a enseñar a utilizar la herramienta NotebookLM de Google, con la cual vas a poder crear un video que va a resumir el contenido de lo que vas a estudiar, específicamente hoy, Language in Use. No te lo pierdas, quédate hasta el final y pues aquí te voy a dejar todos los tips. Muy bien, pues lo primero que te voy a enseñar es la guía donde vienen los temas y contenidos que muestra el examen. Si quieres saber más, hay un video donde te explico cada uno de los módulos, pero estamos en el módulo 1, que es Linguistics. Parte del módulo 1 es Language in Use. Language in Use está subdividido en 3 temas: Analysis of Spoken and Written Discourse, Language and Context, Social Linguistics. Esta misma guía nos muestra pues la bibliografía. Esto, lo que vimos ahorita, fue de Linguistics y Language in Use. Ok, veámoslo aquí. Aquí, esta es la guía y es la guía oficial que viene en la página de CENEVAL. Sí, y aquí encontramos todos los libros, artículos que nos pide CENEVAL estudiar. Ok, ¿cuál es la estrategia? ¿Cómo es que vamos a estudiar? Bueno, si tú tienes una cuenta en Google, tienes entonces NotebookLM. En NotebookLM vamos a descargar y a subir todos los recursos que en este caso pues me dediqué a la tarea de investigarlos, de descargarlos y de subirlos. Además agregué algunas cosas de videos de YouTube. Te permite subir libros, PDFs, videos, artículos, Word, lo que sea. Y una vez que tienes todo esto, entonces creas un video. En este caso ya está creado para que tú lo veas y no hacer el video tan largo. Pero simplemente lo único que tienes que hacer es venir aquí a Video Overview, darle Customize y pedirle que lo divida de todos estos recursos en pues los temas que vimos acá, que es lo que yo hice. ¿Sí? El Language in Use. Y le pedí que me hiciera un video usando todos los recursos que le subí y que lo dividiera en Analysis of Spoken, Language and Context y Social Linguistics. De esta forma puedo resumir todo el contenido y verlo aquí. Ahora vamos a verlo. Ya tengo aquí un video. Aquí nos va a aparecer. Se está cargando el video y lo podemos ver. Además del video, también podemos hacer un podcast en versión audio. Aquí está. Exactamente. Ok, al final de este video, aquí en este mismo video de YouTube, pero al final de la explicación, te voy a dejar cargado todo este video que ya está aquí. Parte de la guía y parte del curso. Te voy a mostrar cómo se ve en el curso que yo ofrezco. Este es el curso en modalidad self-study y que si tú quieres integrarte a un grupo, puedes hacerlo. Aquí vas a encontrar todos los recursos para los 3 módulos: Linguistics, Principles of Teaching, English Language Teaching y Language in Use, que es el que estamos viendo hoy. Además de encontrar PDFs creados por mí mismo, algunos recursos también de internet, puedes encontrar este que yo diseñé desde NotebookLM. Asimismo, un podcast diseñado desde NotebookLM. Es importante recordarte y comunicarte que en NotebookLM su versión gratuita te permite hacer algunos videos, pero no te permite ya, después de cierta cantidad de videos, te lo va a bloquear o no te permite tener más allá de cierto número, de cierta duración del video. Así que en este caso, yo estoy usando la versión Pro para poder darte algo mucho mejor. Espero que te esté gustando, que si te interesa adquirir el curso en Self-Study, tener más información o una guía gratuita de 30 reactivos, dale clic al enlace de WhatsApp y con gusto te la mando totalmente gratis y te doy información acerca de cómo inscribirte a los cursos. Y espero que este tip te haya resultado útil, que lo que te mostré aquí tú lo puedas replicar. Recuerda que vas a tener que descargar la información y subirla a NotebookLM y luego pedirle que genere. O puedes inscribirte directamente al curso o adquirirlo con todos los recursos ya cargados. Y te dejo a continuación con todo el video de Language News, dura 7 minutos a partir de aquí. Si quieres verlo hasta el final para que veas que realmente son los temas de los que se está hablando y que te resume y te da los conceptos pues de una forma muy atractiva y pues te puedes preparar de esa manera. Soy Teacher Oscar, nos vemos en el próximo video.
You know, we use language every single day, and we barely even think about it, right? To order a coffee, to tell a funny story, to fire off a quick text. But what if I told you that behind every single word you say, there's this huge invisible system, a set of rules and social codes, quietly pulling all the strings? Honestly, it works so seamlessly that it really can feel like magic. In fact, the linguist Chris Hall calls this the language spell. We get so wrapped up in what's being said, the message, that we completely miss the mechanics of how it's being said. Well, consider this your official invitation to peek behind the curtain. Together, we are going to break that spell.
So, how does it all actually work? What are these invisible structures that are shaping our conversations, our writing, and even our entire world? Well, the answers? They might just surprise you. Let's dive in.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start by digging into the hidden rules of our conversations. Then, we're going to zoom out and see how context is everything when it comes to meaning. And finally, we'll explore just how deeply language shapes our social world. You ready? So first up, those hidden rules. Linguists have a great name for this whole area: discourse analysis. But really, all it is this study of language in action. It's about how we string sentences together to actually get things done, whether we're talking out loud or just writing it all down. I mean, just think about the difference between talking to a friend and writing an email. Spoken language, it's like a live performance. It's dynamic, it's interactive, it's created online, right there in the moment. It's a dance, and it uses pitch and rhythm, what linguists call prosody, to add all these extra layers of meaning. Writing, on the other hand, is more like a finished product. It's carefully planned and built to be read later. And because of that, it needs a totally different set of tools to hold it all together. You might think that a casual chat is totally random, right? Just a messy stream of whatever pops into your head. But it's not. Even the most off-the-cuff conversations follow these predictable patterns. They aren't messy at all. They're constructed, piece by piece, right in front of us. So, a classic example of this is something called the IRF exchange. It just stands for initiation, response, and follow-up. The easiest place to spot it is in a classroom. A teacher initiates with a question, a student responds with an answer, and the teacher gives a follow-up, like, good job. But here's the cool part. Once you see this three-step pattern, you are going to start noticing versions of it everywhere you go. All right, so that's spoken conversation. But what about written text? How does an article or an essay hang together and make sense from start to finish? Well, the secret ingredient is something called cohesion. You can think of it as the linguistic glue that writers use to link all their ideas together, creating a nice, smooth path for the reader to follow. And this glue is made with surprisingly simple tools. Things like pronouns, he, she, it, or leaving out words that are obvious from the context, or linking ideas with simple words like and or but, and repeating key words or using synonyms. Each of these tiny little choices helps build a logical architecture for the text. So the point is, both speech and writing, while they feel so different, have their own unique, hidden blueprint.
Okay, but knowing the structure is only half the battle. Not even. Now we need to zoom out, because the exact same words can mean wildly different things, and it all depends on the context.
Take a simple sentence like this one. You are leaving now. What does that mean? Seriously, think about it. Is it just a statement of fact? Is it a question? A command? Maybe even an accusation? The truth is, without any context, it's impossible to know for sure. And this is where the power of prosody, the music of our speech, comes in. Just listen, if I say it with a falling tone, you are leaving now, it's a statement. I'm just telling you something. But if I use a rising tone, you are leaving now, suddenly it's a question. See? Same words, different music, totally different meaning. This whole idea of meaning in context has a name. It's called pragmatics. And it's not about what words mean in a dictionary. It's about what we do with them. We use them to request, to inform, to promise, to warn. Pragmatics is the study of language as a tool to get things done in the real world. To figure out what somebody really means, our brains are like these super fast detectives. Instantly and unconsciously, they ask three key questions. 1, what's going on here? 2, who's involved? And 3, what's their goal? We do this thousands of times a day without even realizing it, just to decode what people are actually trying to say. Okay, time for our final, biggest zoom out. We've seen how language is structured, and we've seen how it works in context. But language is also, at its very core, a social thing. It both reflects and creates our identities and the communities we belong to. And this amazing connection between language and society is what the field of sociolinguistics explores. It asks the big questions like, why does our language change based on where we're from? Or our social circles, our ethnicity, or our gender? In short, it's the study of why we don't all talk the exact same way. And one of the most powerful insights here came from the legendary linguist William Labov. He went out and studied dialects that were often dismissed as sloppy or ungrammatical, and what he proved was groundbreaking. He showed that they are complete linguistic systems, just as complex and rule-governed as any so-called standard dialect. The takeaway here is huge. No dialect is linguistically better than any other. They are just different.
So how does my personal way of talking connect with the shared language of my community? Well, Noam Chomsky gave us a really great way to think about this. He split the idea of language in two. There's I language, which is your internal, mental grammar, your unique, unconscious blueprint for language. And then there's E language, which is the external language we all see and hear out in the world, the shared social agreement. This E language, it's like a bridge that lets all of our individual I languages connect. It's a kind of necessary fiction that we all buy into so that communication and really society itself is even possible.
So, we've gone on quite a journey, huh? From tiny grammatical structures all the way to massive social identities. So, why does any of this matter? Well, because when we break that language spell, we start to see the world and each other a whole lot more clearly. So, what are the big takeaways? Let's boil it down. First, our language has hidden structures guiding us all the time. Second, meaning isn't just sitting there in the words. It's something we create together, in context. Third, our language is profoundly social. It's a huge part of who we are. And finally, seeing all these layers doesn't just make you a better communicator. It makes you a much sharper, more critical thinker. So, the spell is broken. You now have the tools to see the hidden machinery of language working all around you, all the time. The only question left is this. What will you notice about the next conversation you have? What will you hear now that you couldn't hear before? Thanks for joining me on this explainer.